I have to say I was a little bit disappointed when Hannah said she was agreeing so much with James. I'm like, well, that's not going to be very much of a fun panel. We've got some arguments and some disagreements. So I'm going to posit that DevOps has failed because everyone is talking about it and nobody's doing it. Or not enough people are doing it. What do you guys think?
No.
A very short panel.
I kind of agree. I think, yeah, you have to have some controversy anyway. I think the problem is with the definition of DevOps. I can't get away from the fact that there is no definition of it. So if one person says it means installing Kubernetes and the other person says it's changing your culture, who's to say who's right? The fact that there is no official definition just means that you're forever trying to define it. And if you're always trying to define it, you're never going to actually make any progress. There's a hand up at the back there. What's the...
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Matt, when you said why DevOps failed,
Yeah.
can you elaborate on that? Because
Yeah, I'm being very
the way I
controversial.
see DevOps is it's a methodology. It's how it works.
Okay, let's repeat what Andreas is saying. He's saying I need to elaborate on why DevOps has failed.
Yeah.
Andreas is saying it's a methodology. Yeah.
I just wanted to hear your why you.
I think I broadly agree with James in that the message has got diluted, and for a lot of people, saying the word DevOps is means tooling or it means automation, and maybe putting in some continuous delivery here, but not actually grasping the nettle of those cultural and process type problems that most organisations seem to see. Or maybe you're just an old cynic. I don't know.
If I could throw something in. What I see where it fails in organizations is leadership. And we talk about people, we talk about process, we talk about tools. All of those things are really, really important. But where it really fails, I've seen companies come in, a new leader will be there, and they'll say, we're going to put in DevOps, they'll select a tool, but they haven't done the proper work of evangelizing throughout the organization on what's the goal. Why are we doing this change? What are we actually trying to achieve? And the failure to communicate that goal throughout the organization is going to lead to failure because people will not be all in and they're not going to work the extra hard to try and get it done. I believe that if you educate your people, you let them know what you're doing, what the goals are, it isn't always about the tool. It's about being on a mission and being part of it. That's why Scrum was so important, because people believed that they were now part of the team. I'm not just a person, I'm part of a team.
And Scrum has goals, and you mentioned goals there, and I think that they're absolutely vital. So having a goal that you can all sort of work towards, so you're not pulling all in vaguely different directions or completely different directions, is absolutely key. Now, that goes back to the whole problem of definition, because if you don't know what DevOps means, or you've all got your own definition of DevOps, how can you all pull in the right direction towards this DevOps goal? And another thing on that subject is, with organizations that go on these DevOps transformations, we try and make sure that there is a business objective aligned to it. Otherwise, these transformations are going to peter out or fail, or they're going to get gazumped. Something more important that is more in line with the business objective is going to stand in its way. So aligning DevOps with some tangible business objective is absolutely essential to get a successful transformation in our experience.
Yeah, it's not your job. Is this working? It's not your job to do DevOps. It's your job to deliver value for the business. Those things have to be aligned. And I think it's worth talking about the context in which DevOps transformation is happening, because we're all going through this digital transformation and we're using technology in different ways, and businesses that aren't prepared to leverage technology and to adapt to that are going to fall behind their competitors. And I think if we have digital transformation as the overarching umbrella that's affecting all business, then DevOps is the set of principles, practices and technologies that enable them to do that. And it's got a shit name, because it's not about development and operations at all, but it's the name we're stuck with, unfortunately.
And this is where we're at.
Yeah.
This is why I think DevOps is struggling, partly to do with this, is that it is historically, if you sort of trawl through the old history of where DevOps came from, and a bit of a DevOps 101, DevOps did really, and it pains me to say it, start as automation. So Patrick Dubois, we all know the kind of founding father of the DevOps movement, was trying to find a solution to a data center migration he was working on, and wanted an automated way of doing it. That led into, oh, actually this automated way really works, but I need to collaborate with the development team to make this more effective. So the collaboration thing kind of came second, if you like, but it did literally mean automation and dev and ops working together. So it's a damn painful history, because that's not really what we mean by DevOps these days. Question?
Didn't it sort of start as agile infrastructure, which doesn't really
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
imply automation, it implies applying agile to infrastructure?
Agile infrastructure predates DevOps.
Yeah.
If you really want to go back, you can go back and read the book, The Goal, and start with lean manufacturing and the theory of constraints and removing the bottleneck. So if you take a look at that, I think this is a lot of where this movement was. It moved into the world of technology because transformation was happening fast. We're able to develop applications quicker. The demands of the marketplace are changing. We have VMs, virtual machines out there, which makes things more abundantly in supply. We can do more of them. So how do we do that and keep track of it? And DevOps somehow became a real catchy name you know,
'Cause there's
Jeff
no-
did a great job.
there's no
and
catchy
he
name.
did a nice job. But you look, we're guilty too. IBM jumping in, all in on the DevOps train. But if you really circle back, James, what you were saying, identify what are the business goals. Why are we really trying to go fast? If you can circle around and answer that question, then you get everybody in your organization to understand this is it. Just say, for example, we're a bank. We have to now make available the ability to cash a check by taking a picture of it. Well, it's nothing today, but 3 years ago it was a big deal. If you take a look at what is not being in the transformation going to harm our company, how are we going to benefit and survive? If everyone understands that, they'll jump in and they'll make this happen.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think one of the problems that you touched on is there is no catchy name for how do we do things better from concept to cash, including innovation, motivation, our tooling, automation, all that kind of stuff. There is no word that means do all of that according to current best practices. There just isn't. And some of us try and pretend that that's what DevOps is. I'm guilty of that. I've kind of used DevOps as our way of instilling best practices, from requirements gathering to motivation, to managing teams, to processes, to tooling, all under this DevOps banner. And sometimes I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle there, and we kind of need another word.
James, back in 2008 when I entered into this business, I'd call people up and say, hey, I'm Greg with Urban Code. We sell build, test, deploy, and release. What do you say? That's a mouthful, so we're kind of glad we came up with the word anyway.
Yeah, it's all a big mouthful. So it sounds like, coming back to where we came in, a lot of people go down the automation routes. Do you think perhaps that's enough to get started with, and is the automation a gateway drug into like full-blown DevOps?
I wish it was.
It can be, as long as you don't do it in a silo. As long as there's not an automation team that become another bottleneck in your already very siloed process, because you're not really implementing change then. You're just, you're just using computers where you want to use humans. That's not fundamental change to your process.
What I've seen work are companies that put a good team together, they understand the vision, and they get some real achievable goals, and they become very public about it. They let everybody in the world know that this was something that was really not possible before they're doing it. Then they can find a way to start to recruit and spread it throughout the organization, but get some really good successes under your belt early.
Yeah, I'd also add that I don't think we would be where we are right now if it wasn't for the proliferation of the term DevOps through rebadged sysadmins and recruiters doing a lot of hard work to push the name out there. I know it might sound bad, but we'd be really struggling to sell this DevOps concept if it really truly was about optimizing your end-to-end. The fact that there are now thousands of DevOps engineers out there, millions in fact, it has helped DevOps as a movement grow. I hate to use the term necessary evil, but we wouldn't be here. It wouldn't be this big if it wasn't so accessible.
Awesome. I was talking to some people earlier today about the whole dramatic mess of what DevOps seems to have become and the various labels it's got. I think that's kind of got better since the handbook came out. Since people finally had something that was approaching a Bible written by the people who were the founding fathers of the movement that had to really do this stuff. Do you think that helps the movement or hinders it? What are your views on that, both?
Yeah, I would say definitely. I think if you approach DevOps as like another transformation program with a Gantt chart of like, well, we'll do the application automation, and now we're going to do a bit of infrastructure as code, and we'll do this and we'll do that, and then there's like some end in sight, like some milestone where we're going to have that DevOps thing, sort of miss the point completely. So I think having something in people's hands which can steer them away from that approach to doing DevOps is a good thing. Because if you do everything at once, you're just going to drown.
If you look at Gene Kim's book, The Phoenix Project, and the Continuous Delivery book too, really, they were more about what is DevOps, and we're evangelizing to the world that you should do DevOps. The latest book, though, is more about how. It's designed to give you some practical guidelines. 4 years ago, I would have been talking about Agile to people. And today we're talking about DevOps. 2 years ago, I'd be saying, hey everybody, here's a reason to do DevOps, here's a return on investment for DevOps. Today, people want to know, give me some practical advice on how I can implement DevOps. So it's really a thing, and by the number of people here, I think that validates it. But now companies are looking for, how do I successfully make this work?
Yeah, I also totally agree with that, and I would say that one thing that companies are sometimes getting a bit confused with is thinking that DevOps is more than just a means to an end. I think we need to not lose focus of that. DevOps is the means to an end. It isn't the end. We're not just trying to do DevOps for the sake of DevOps. We're trying to use DevOps to enable us to do something better, i.e. produce higher quality software, or be more innovative, be able to take more risk with lower risk, if you get my meaning. So there's a reason why we're doing DevOps. We're not doing DevOps just because we want to do DevOps.
Okay, David, another question. Shout.
Can you please give a good differentiation between sort of data engineering and DevOps, and also put that in a particular category between the plan, design, build, test, and deploy of discrete things or things that I think there's a big difference between these two, or another thing in consideration that SRE is not just a good one, it's expanded out into other cases now.
Yeah, absolutely. So site reliability engineering is the kind of DevOps as a platform approach, and yeah, it's being used quite widely now, and it's almost interchangeable with DevOps engineering. Again, it's another term that's being hijacked, and I use that term in the kindest possible way. People are leveraging the term to try and make the job sound more appealing, because Google have pushed that term. It's essentially site reliability engineering touches, depending on which definition you read. Again, we're down to a definition and semantic problem. Yeah, the Google one is more of a kind of continuous delivery as a platform, DevOps as a platform approach, which has merit. It certainly works with Google, but it doesn't necessarily mean it'll work for everybody else.
So does Spotify call it platform engineering? So that it was around before Google published their book, but that name didn't catch on. We just called those people DevOps. So yeah, all these terms have been diluted. I always used to quite like platform engineering because you're engineering the platform. But it's exactly what you say. It's you call it DevOps as a platform, DevOps as whatever you call it. It's about providing a service to your software development team so that they can run their own software in production themselves without needing a separate silo of an operations team. So it's about enabling that.
And also, I think it extends DevOps a bit, and it's a sign of the maturing of the DevOps marketplace, because we're not just focusing on how do we develop the application, how we get it going faster, make sure we did the proper tests. We also want to make sure that we have acceptable time that the application is up and running and operating effectively. And we're extending our team, so this isn't, and as you said earlier, we don't have a separate silo. We bring a site reliability engineer into the team, and it extends the whole community so that from A to Z, it gets us closer to from idea to delivery and beyond. So I think it's a very interesting notion. I'm hearing a lot about it, read a lot of blogs on it. It's pretty interesting stuff. Stay tuned.
If you kind of
Would I be just separate them? Because if you go complaining that DevOps is undefined, you should just
find it.
Yes.
Okay, there's another question, Richard, in the back there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you.
You asked a controversial question. Is it ironic that the interest in DevOps is peaking and then getting bigger and bigger, and probably the point at which it becomes it's an end of life, and it's not even, we've almost reached a solution to itself? I'll give you a reason.
DevOps.
I'll back that up. I mean, this isn't the paperless office has always been claimed to happen, it hasn't happened yet, but a few years ago, AWS were doing virtual video, comparing AWS and moving infrastructure offsite into the cloud to the early days of the power station. I think a lot of people see that there. Let's electricity supply every business has its own power station and power engineers. Yeah. But you keep saying that the business driver is the focus of what DevOps is. And all businesses really care about is the innovation that goes into their app towards the taxi or their workflow software to govern deliveries of their products. And none of the other things around it, they don't want to be involved in anything to do with making that app appear on an iPhone. So they want their clever people to be thinking about the app and nothing else. So everything around that gets it delivered, currently Terraform, FTPs or JSON or whatever, the end point will be software developers building on the app and uploading that and somebody else in AWS, Azure, or whatever, deploying it. And all you're going to be doing is releasing code for a specific function. All of the stuff we do around it, making it happen smarter now, is possibly going to be control it. So are we seeing
everything as a service, essentially? So it'll be DevOps as a service?
Well, DevOps will go because all the other stuff, me writing JSON or power formation to, load balancers and all that stuff will be done automatically. It'll be a click button, you'll do it, and the things I enjoy doing, love doing, I've been trying to get to the stage for years, and now I'm hoping I'll just see it out.
Well, so you're talking about things like, well, it's been going that way quite a bit. So if you look at things like Kubernetes and now Lambda and this kind of stuff, it's taking away what was traditionally a sysadmin's job to sort of manage this stuff either manually or in some way automatically. And that's now being provided as a service. So you've got this kind of infrastructure, operations, and scalability all in one, deployability all in one service. But it's been going that way for a while. I mean, Heroku, has been around for donkeys years. But with these platforms as a service come a certain number of skill sets that are required to understand them, to manage them, to scale them, and so on. That is where I see a lot of skills now being needed.
Yes, but in the same way that every company used to have its own electrical engineers who could run a power station, on site, do the things about electricity generation. Yes, you still do need those specialist engineers, but let's sitting in power stations, and there's not many of them. They'll be sitting, Amazon is deployed by robots, all that, everything's plugged in by robots, it'll be the software. There'll be a very, very skilled software engineer running the power stuff. But the idea that every company has its own infrastructure developing this, I can't see it happening much longer.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
No, I wasn't controversy.
Okay, sorry. That question was worth more okay, final question, Jack.
So DevOps is quite a vague term. I agree with Hannah where it's quite about making a lot of changes. How can them changes work in, say, a big, massive enterprise where it's much more traditional? Will DevOps work in enterprise?
You just asked the enterprise DevOps question, basically.
Yeah.
No, don't think.
Yes, it can work, but you can't assume that you're going to get there overnight. So what it needs is for big teams to be able to operate independently of one another. And what we have in large organisations is we have a lot of cross-team dependencies where there once was like one single monolithic system. You now need to separate those out into capabilities. And people are doing this, but they're doing it slowly, because it does take time to unpick that massive legacy mainframe and recode it in whatever platform you want to deliver the same capabilities for the business. It's just legacy, and we have to recognise that there is a lot of software out there running in production, adding value for these businesses today that you can't just rewrite overnight. And that's why everyone says you can't do DevOps in the enterprise. You can. You just have to recognise that in order to do it, you have to probably enable quite a big technology change as well.
I've actually seen it. I have a company that a year ago in April had 10 applications, and they were doing automation to do DevOps, and they got really wonderful returns, and they decided, their CIO says, we're going to do DevOps everywhere. Right? Like, holy crap, we have 3,000 applications. How are we going to do that? How are we going to do it before we're all grandparents? What they did was they put together, they made sure they had the right people in place, so they had good leadership. They did prototypes of the different silos of types of applications that they were doing. They had the right tools in place, and they had the right processes in place so that they were able to do it. They put multiple teams together, and 12 months following April of last year, so April this year, they had 2,400 applications that they had deployed. Now, that's remarkable by anybody's means, but a lot of it is leadership. A lot of it is having a vision that you create and share and have everybody all in, and having the right people, the right process, and the right plan, the right tools. All of that stuff is so important. I think it's going to be a really big growth for DevOps over the next couple of years.
Awesome. Any final words on that, James?
Yeah, I'm going to be slightly controversial and err on the side of no. If you're a large monolithic enterprise, if you try to be DevOps, you're not going to achieve large monolithic DevOps. So the only way you're going to change DevOps is change who you are. So change the way your organization responds, behaves, acts. And as Hannah was talking about culture, trying to in any way shape or form that kind of culture in a large enterprise is going to be just an exceptionally painful experience. Large organizational cultural changes famously always fail because there's no such thing as a single organizational culture. Culture's like the climate. It's not like the weather. It's like the climate, the prevailing climate. It's not always sunny. It's not always rainy. You'll get a different climate. You'll get a different weather on every day, but there is an overall climate. So your culture is made up of subcultures, which is made up of team cultures, which is made up of individual cultures, and it changes dynamically week to week. So if you go in there and you say, right, we're going to change the culture, well, it's already changing. Good luck. There's no point. You're better off changing the behaviors and practices and principles and waiting for the culture to shift.
Awesome. Well, I think we could probably go on for quite a lot longer with the pieces here. So I'm just going to say thank you so much to